Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Shahzadi Samra for the course of African Literature. Course code is ENGL 4117. So today's topic is again Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, and it was published in 1958. So today we are going to make an analysis, like a pre and post colonial analysis of Things Fall Apart. It was published in 1958, and it was written in response to European novels that depicted Africans as savages who needed to be enlightened by the Europeans. Achebe presents to the reader his people's history with both strengths and imperfections by describing, for example, Igbo's festivals, and also he also depicts the misleading of European novels that depict Africans as savages into a whole new light with its portrayal of Igbo society. And he also examines the effects of European colonialism on Igbo society from an African perspective. So let's move on. First is the introduction. I would discuss the introduction, like about the work and a bit of the influence of colonialism. Then I would go to the bit of the background of the novel. Then the discussion about about like the analysis of pre and post colonial. So the first is, as I told you, it was written in 1958, and it was the setting of the novel is the outskirts of Nigeria, the small fictional village, Umofia. So just before the arrival of the white missionaries into their land. So due to the unexpected arrival of white missionaries in Umofia, the villagers do not know how to react to the sudden cultural changes that the missionaries threatened to change with their new political structure and institutions. So I'll focus on the effects of the European colonization on Igbo culture. So towards the end of the 19th century, most European states migrated to Africa and other parts of the world where they established colonies. Nigeria was amongst other African nations that received visitors who were on a colonizing mission, introducing their religion and culture that is later imposed on Igbo. The culture of the people of Umofia is immensely threatened by this change. So Achebe's primary purpose of writing this work was because he wanted to educate his readers about the value of his culture as an African. And this work, The Things Fall Apart, it also provides readers with insight of Igbo society right before the missionaries' invasion on their land, and the invasion of the colonizing force threatens to change every aspect of Igbo society, from religion, traditional gender roles and relations, family structure to trade, everything. Achebe, he blames white missionaries' colonial rule or the invasion for the post-colonial oppressed Igbo culture. So this oppression can be seen in terms of the oppressed social coherence between the individual and their societies. Furthermore, he also educates readers extensively about Igbo society's myths and proverbs. He wanted to make the world aware of his culture, of the African people. Like, he wanted to depict the true picture. He wanted to remove all the stereotypes. about it. So mostly like the European people, they've published about sorry, mostly earlier the mostly depiction of African people was written by the Europeans. So the European writings describe Africans as uncivilized and uneducated person. They use the word savages or barbarians. So the Europeans saying that they thought of themselves as more advanced and civilized than Africans, and they were determined to help Africans shift from the old era into the modern era of civilization and education. For example, The Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad is one of the most read novels around the world, and it was published in 1899. So, he described Africa as wild, dark, and uncivilized continent, and he also wrote in 1952 the Mr. Johnson. Sorry, not and a novel by Joyce Carey. So, The Heart of Darkness and the Mr. Johnson, they were quite popular, and they like depicted the you may say the stereotypes, colonial stereotypes about Africa. So, based on the description of the on those description, it comes as no surprise that Achebe and other African writers, they begin to emerge and they tell their story of Africa and its people. So, because of the misrepresentation of Africans and their people, and the humiliation of and because of their humiliation, the African writers, they came forward to just to defend their culture, to defend their country, to defend their people. So, all writers, they play quite an essential role in the modern African literature, both in their countries and internationally. But the Achebe is the most successful writer of lot, because he has been critical of the role of Christianity in Africa, and his criticism, it was not harsh, but it was regarded as a moderate, like he was being moderate. So the other writers like Wolso and Ben Okri, those two are also included in our course. So there are many the writers, they also did good work, they are also successful, but Achebe is the most influential one from all. So he describes in Things Fall Apart, he describes the history of Igbo, and he describes their perfections, their imperfections of their culture and tradition, and the beliefs in the power of ancestral gods, the sacrifice of the young boys, and many other. We'll look into it. But after the arrival of, although there were clashes, there were conflicts, but the arrival of missionaries had some benefits to Igbo as well. There were also number of challenges that faced the future of Igbo. So now move on to the reflections on post-colonialism. So that was bit of the introduction, that what he was trying to depict, and what happened, how things change. So colonialism first, the policy or practice of acquiring full or partial political control over another country, occupying it with settlers and exploiting it economically. So that is what the colonialists did, and that is the basically the definition of colonialism. It was their policy, and or you may say the practice. What they were doing, they were gaining control by using different means. Therefore, post-colonialism is sometimes assumed to refer as like the um, after colonialism or after independence. So, like describing the wide range of social, cultural, and political events arising from the decline and fall of European colonialism that took place after World War II. So, post colonialism expresses the opposite idea of colonialism, and the post colonial literature is basically considered as the consequence of the colonialism. So, through literature, we understand the primary focus that of Achebe's Things Fall Apart, like a novel written by an individual. As Achebe, he was grew up under colonial rule in response to the effects of colonialism on his culture, and he also writes back at the writings of the European writers and the misrepresentation of Africa in their writings. So he was a colonized individual is usually forced to follow the culture of their colony, regardless of if they are against it or not. So the post-colonial writers, they usually write about how their rich natives, rich native cultures were destroyed under the power of imperialism. Further, we see that post-colonialism continues to be a process of hostility and reform. How, most countries, they have gained independence from their colonizers, but they are still indirectly subjected in one way or another to the forms of neo-colonial domination. This is seen in the development of new elites in post-colonial nations, that we are often supported by the new colonial institutions, as is suggested by the development of divisions within these societies that are based on discrimination, discrimination of race, culture, religion, and language. So that is why the post-colonialism is known to be a process of hostility and reform. If it is bringing some change, on the other hand, it is also bringing hostility. So still the new, we are in the we may say that now the position of the colonized people, or the once colonized nation, is now that they are neo colonized, partially colonized. Our minds and our language, our cultures are still colonized. We do prefer to adopt their traditions. We look up to their culture and their language and their race, everything. So in heterogeneous society, I mean a society in which there are many different the people there who belong to different ethnicities, the different races, groups, social status, language or dialects or cultural tradition. So in such kind of society, post-colonial writers, they usually try to reassign new ethnic and cultural meanings to the groups of people that are treated as insignificant by their society, or or those that are treated as the outsider by their society, or are not accepted by the society. So the literature also aims at inviting the colonized to work together collectively, because if they work together and put their differences aside, they are surely bound to overcome the pain of losing their culture, their identity, their language, and this will enable them to focus on the ways that will help preserve the elements of their culture that does exist somewhere. So the literature, the post-colonial literature, doesn't show the colonized as victims of colonialism. Rather, it shows that they are confused about their sense of belonging. Like they are confused about their identity, they are confused about their culture, about their language. If a person is confused about language, language is our identity, so automatically that person becomes confused about identity. And when one is confused about identity, it makes him confused, or it makes him question that from which nation he belongs, like the person from to which nation he exactly belongs. So this literature, it just shows that how they are confused about their sense of belonging, and how they are questioning. And the most colonized individuals, they do not know whether to follow their own culture or the culture of the colonizer. So that is why it becomes the hybrid culture. So that is where the Bhabha's concept of hybridity can be applied. So because of this confusion, they find themselves combining some of the elements of the two different cultures, which make them move back and forth continuously. Like they become hybrid, their identity become hybrid. So from both the cultures, like from the colonized and the colonizer, they neither accept one fully, and nor they leave the other fully. So ultimately this moving back and forth, this leads to the miscommunication. Sometimes that can be meaningful, like as Bhabha says that this hybridity, this ambiguity, like confusion, it ultimately leads towards the third space, and third space might be productive. So according to Bhabha, third space is productive, but sometimes it isn't. So move on to the Things Fall Apart is the most influential novels of his times, like both on a local and global scale, because it fully depicted as Achebe, he was being neutral, and he faced both phases, like is his parents, his grandparents, they were firm believers of the traditional culture, while his parents, they converted to Christianity. So we move to the exposition on the background of the novel. So when Nigeria became a colony of Britain in 1906, the country became exposed to the British colonial structure and its various institutions, like religion, law and order, like court system, and so on. So and Achebe was born in 1930, almost a quarter of a century after the British assumed direct control of Nigeria. As I told you that although his parents and they converted to Christianity, and his grandparents, they were still strong believers of traditional culture. Even under these circumstances, Achebe then came to know of both the British culture as well as the Nigerian culture. So neither of them understood the other's culture, like his parents and his grandparents, or Achebe or the his parents or his grandparents. So they were not willing, like British and the Nigerians or Africans, they were not willing to understand each other's culture and to abandon their own belief and to follow their beliefs of the or to follow the beliefs of the other. So it can be assumed that there was a lot of tension, and we have already talked about the conflicts. So Achebe was aware of this, and the tension that was rising there, and that was present there, and he experienced it personally. That is why in an interview he said that conflict that existed between these two cultures, it created sparks in his imagination, and this resulted in the birth of his novel Things Fall Apart. So he was successful in his publication, in his mission. And Achebe's he apart from the Things Fall Apart, he also liked his work The Arrow of God. So the both works, this seem to be introduction of new religion, as well as its destructiveness in the society, and that new religion was the Christianity, and how it was destructive in the society. Or you may say that new religion might be the Umufian religion, Igbo religion of Igbo people, and how it didn't create any destructive land. It was existing there. Christianity came on later. So it brought destructivity, or it brought destructiveness with it. And like the Things Fall Apart, the people of Umofia are separated into two groups immediately because of the arrival of missionaries. And the first group of people, the Igbo followers, and the second was the follower of the white missionaries, who converted to Christianity, and they abandoned their religion, their traditional lifestyle, or their culture, everything, and who followed the ways of white people. So Things Fall Apart is basically about collapse, breaking into pieces, chaos, and confusion of traditional Igbo culture that suffers at the hand of white man's arrival in Umofia along with his religion. So the views about life that the white men have are totally different from the views of the people of Igbo society. So with the thing that seems utterly and inappropriate, so what seems utterly appropriate and acceptable in traditional Igbo culture, it was totally inappropriate and unacceptable to white missionaries. So that was quite a clash, because and it was vice versa. So they wanted a quick change, like as the missionaries, they wanted quick change, and it was unacceptable for the Igbo people. And in doing so, they just they were just unable to understand the inappropriate and unacceptable elements of the Igbo culture. So it was their hurriness, or their immediate lust for power that didn't make them to understand the about Igbo culture. So in and for example, the things that were unacceptable for Western people, it is that in Igbo culture, it is required for a real man to wed two or more times. It is for as a Konko, he was married on 3 times or 3 or 4 times, and the women of clan, they were aware of this and they have accepted this ritual. So in some cases, the first wife, she can even suggest to her husband to look for a younger wife. And yeah, the younger wives, the younger wives, they were also expected to respect the first wife, because, and sometimes it happens, the first wife, she becomes the head of the wives, and she gets to live in the head hut. Yeah, so these women, and along with the husband, they live together in peace and help each other in taking care of children and other household chores. So it can be seen that although it is difficult to live like this, if we think it in general ways, or apply it universally, it is quite difficult to live like this, but they were living peacefully. So and the white missionaries, they were against polygamous marriages, and because of the New Testament that forbid Christians to marry more than one woman. So it was unacceptable for white missionaries. Another thing in the Igbo culture that was unacceptable is that killing of children. A person it was considered is normal practice. So as long as the reasons of the killing are in line with the practices of their religion. For instance, the Igbo religion, it says that the twins must be killed because they are a sign of the work of the devil. Small boys should be sacrificed to the god as a sign of peace offering, and etc. And the fifth commandment teaches believers that only God has the power and authority to decide when the life of a man shall end and nobody else. So that is why there was religious clash. So the most obvious cultural clash that exists between the both communities, like the Western or the Igbo, is also emerges in the era of God. So that was the internal division in the tribe. As we have already, I already mentioned in previous lectures that there were also division. Some were considered outcast in the Igbo society. So already the internal division between the tribe, it made things for easy for the missionaries to separate them, to create a chaos between them, or to divide them. So and another thing is although they were divided within the tribe, the second division and the second conflict was after the arrival of white missionaries. Although there were divisions, but they were living peacefully. They were not fighting with each other. They were not harming each other. But with the arrival of the white people, there were conflicts, there were fights, there were riots within the tribe, between the people of tribe, and they got confused whether they should they should support their tribe or they should stand against their tribe. So that these were the conflicts that that arose because of the arrival of the Europeans. And and Achebe, he just tries to shows the readers that it is the missionaries who are to be blamed for the destructiveness of the religion of the Igbo people. And he says that the readers, they should consider that tribes can also become divided on their own, but the ultimate blame, he says that the ultimate blame, it goes both ways and more to the Europeans. So in his both novels, The Era of God and The Things Fall Apart, Achebe uses the regional language to describe the lifestyles of his characters as well as the environment where the plots are set respectively. So the reason for using this language, because he wanted to give the more insight into the culture, African or the Igbo culture. So most of the text in Achebe's Things Fall Apart, he uses the like feature explanation. He explained the myths and proverbs of Igbo people that Europeans were unable to understand and unable to acknowledge. And so the use of proverb, for example, it was very important in the conversation of the Igbo people, and they believe that the use of the verbs is basically like example of wisdom and respect. So and that is the difference. That is also one of the major difference between Achebe's novels and other colonial novels, because his novels, he thoroughly portrays the Igbo culture, their good things, their bad things, their beliefs, their drawbacks, everything. And whatever he shows, he not only he doesn't only depicts the the good things of the Igbo culture, but he depicted everything, whether it was good or bad. So it was one of the main reasons that Things Fall Apart was successful, because it was the descriptiveness of Igbo culture, and it was seen through the perspective of the author, like an author who was an outsider and an insider as well. How he was an outsider and insider? Because he was being raised in a Christian household, which meant he was not allowed to participate in the traditional Igbo rituals, although he was Igbo. So he thoroughly he presents a thorough understanding of narrative, organization and style, and how he experienced there. So that is why this work have more importance than the other colonial works. So now move on to the analysis. Okay. Fundamental to the age of imperialism was the scramble for Africa, period of 1880s to the 1890s. So Europeans became very hungry for Africa's natural resources, and because of the ivory, because of the jewel, because of the widespread land. So so it resulted in their arrival in Africa, and as well as their hostile or forceful takeover of the land. The imperialism means they took over lands forcefully. So during this period, many European countries, they sought colonies in Africa, and one of the reasons that the Europeans had for colonizing Africa, because they were claiming that they were there to civilize the primitive African minds as a humanitarian act. They were doing it out of human sympathy, they are doing it out of humanity. So the African states that were dominated by European power, whether it was economic, political or social. So as I said, that they were thinking they were there to civilize them. If they were thinking that they were there to civilize them, it means they were thinking of their own civilization as the superior civilization. And because of this, they didn't even try to understand the civilization of the African people that was already there. So the Europeans, they held a Eurocentric view of the world. Eurocentric means every view they had, it was around the Europeans, and in which at every in every aspect Europeans were superior, and every other Europeans were superior, and every other nation, they were considered as other. They were considered as uneducated, uncivilized people. So the Eurocentrism perceives Europe as the core of civilization and of humanity. So Eurocentrism had racist tendencies, which granted an inferior status to the non-whites, and in order to give people back their identity or pride once they had achieved a rot, things fall apart. He wanted his people to understand and to give them the sense of belonging, as language is very important, and it gives them the sense of belonging, and they use it as means to preserve their culture and heritage. And although language is important to Igbo, it ultimately leads to the fall of their society. Igbo is a society that also appears to be skeptical about change. Skeptical means negative about change, or having doubts about something, or being in disbelief. So they were skeptical about it. They refuse to send their children to school where they stand a chance to be able to read and write in English language. So they were they were not accepting change, although there was a point they could have sent their children in the schools and made them learn English language, but they didn't want to do that, because they didn't understand the English language, and that is why and it was unknown to them, because the Igbo society, they were only limited to Umofia, they were only limited to their own region, and they didn't even care about the outside world. They just shut down the outside world. So they depend on their language to differentiate them from the other cultures. So that is why they didn't want their children to learn the English language. So and the Igbo's ignorance towards the rest of the world, and they also depend on language to define their social rank in their society. Like Okonkwo, when he was compared to his father Unoka, he was considered a wealthy man, not only because he has married a lot of women or his household produces many yams, but because of his strength that helped him defeat one of the strong wrestlers in the village, the cat. And while on the other hand, Unoka, he was a drunkard and who had only one wife and not many yams, and he didn't have any title by the time of his death as well. So they use the term like Agbala term, and their use of the different terms they and they associated, or they they gave different titles to the the reputable people in the society, in the Igbo society. So before the arrival of the Igbo's ignorance, I have already told you that they were ignorant of the rest of the world. So it was, and it ultimately turned into their loss, their ignorance. So as you will observe in the work that there wasn't any point in the work when the characters they made any reference to the outside world except Africa, Nigeria, or the Igbo or Umofia. Means they didn't go beyond this. So although they didn't go beyond this, but we can say that even before the arrival of white missionaries in Umofia, they already had their own judicial system, their own justice, their own law and orders. So that the system, that knowledge that their forefathers, their ancestors passed on to them about their culture. So their courts are spearheaded by the oldest men of the village. For example, when in the villages, even in these days, they held panchayat. The 5 leaders of of a village, head members of the village. So that was same in the Umofia, in the Igbo society. So and they had oldest men of the village whose wisdom and knowledge is trusted in the power of their ancestral gods. So they acted as judges. So one of the first things that missionaries do when they arrive in village is to replace the Igbo courts with theirs. They try to replace their judicial system with their own judicial system. So this disadvantages the villagers, as the white missionaries, they do not know the history, and they didn't want to know about it. So without knowing or without having any knowledge about the Igbo culture or system, justice system, they just try to change it or replace it with the other system. So it was their first mistake when they first decided to take over Igbo and their territory. So the judicial system they wanted to imply there, Igbo people, they didn't have any knowledge about that court, that what was rightfully right or wrong, lawfully right and wrong in that court, in the white man's court. So that is why when the villagers they burned down the church, they were imprisoned and they were shocked about it. So the action by the missionaries, they didn't consider Igbo laws and customs in their hostile takeovers, shows that they do not care about the Igbo tradition or culture at all. They were there to impose their own culture, their own traditions and their own system. So that is why they didn't try to understand, and they try to get his knowledge about the history of the Igbo culture. So the lack of consideration of the Igbo and their well-being on the hand of Europeans, it creates the drift that exists between the two cultures and drives them further apart from where they first started. So they were just, they didn't see that they are destroying the Igbo culture, and they could first learn from the Igbo to better understand them and their way of life. So when they didn't try to understand them, it just raised a question of intelligence of the white missionaries, because as they claim themselves to be the civilized, most educated people, so it rose a question: if they are the most civilized, if they are the most educated, then why didn't they why didn't they give themselves time to learn the Igbo culture? Why did they call Igbo culture uncivilized and Igbo people uneducated at the first meeting? So they certainly appear uncivilized and uneducated, even though they claim to be. So this is contradictory to the statement they present as the enlighteners of the village of Jomofia. So this creates a contradiction, because they themselves were claiming as the civilized people, but they were acting as the uncivilized people. So as compared to them, the Igbo people, they seem more civilized. So and because in their culture it was, if two parties are at conflict, then they give each other a chance to resolve and the issue. But the white missionaries, they didn't do so. So Igbo is a compassionate yet violent society, and this is seen through the Akonko, character of Akonko, who is basically the representative of the tribe in whole work. And one thing is when he how much he was trying to resist the change, when he killed one of the missionary, and when he hanged himself. So these acts, they show that it was a violent society, and he committed suicide. So it shows that the Igbo society ultimately gave the power and the territory to the white missionaries. So and this shows that they were although they were violent, but they were violent within their own within the boundaries of their own land. So that is why they didn't fight back with the missionaries who took their lands and everything else forcefully. And the decision by the rulers of Mubanta to allocate land to the missionaries was the worst mistake the Igbo people could make. So it gave the missionaries the impression that the Igbo are weak society and they could easily influence with their culture, but the reality was the opposite. So to Igbo people, the white missionaries are aliens because their religion is not known to them. They don't even understand the concept behind the Christianity, because they didn't ever go beyond their own region, their own boundaries of land. So this is because until now the nature of the white people and their culture has existed outside of their language. So to the Igbo, it means that it has simply not existed. It was like a non-existent religion and people to the Igbo people, and they were so confused how to react to it. So and white missionaries, they were convinced that the Igbos are primitives, so it was their obligation to civilize them although the Igbo people, they didn't ask for help. So if one doesn't ask for help, then you are not supposed to help them. So it was just they were doing so out of their own personal benefits, and they were just making them feel good, that whatever we are doing, order to show the world that we are doing the public service. As many theorists mentioned in their books. So they arrive in Umofia, and almost immediately, they expected immediately from the people of Umofia to submit to the authority without any question. Like, they didn't even understand that they didn't know about their culture, they didn't know about them, they didn't know about their religion. So how can they or how could this submit to them without asking any question? So this shows that how they were behaving as uncivilized people. Like the Europeans, they were behaving as uncivilized people, but they labeled the Africans as the uncivilized people. So the and on the other hand, the missionaries, they serve as a ray of hope to the people that Igbo religion gives no favor to the outcast people. What they did, they used the formula of divide and rule in here, and they just divided them first, and they just started ruling them. So the decision to follow Christianity by some members of Igbo society is greatly influenced by the suffering they had incurred from their own culture. For example, Novoi, he converted to Christianity because he suffered, and he suffered from in his own culture, in his society, at his own home. So and the other people who were the outcast people, they converted to Christianity very easily, and the reason was the same. And a pregnant woman, so she was converted to Christianity because she had seen her children. She didn't want to put his children put to that, the twin children. So in order to save his children, her children, she converted to Christianity. So that is how we can see that it was somehow the fault of the Igbo people as well, the Igbo society, because they didn't give space to their own people. They didn't give it wasn't a flexible society or flexible religion, the Igbo religion. So they didn't give any kind of relaxation or flexibility to their own people. And Achebe is quite successful in making aware people that the effects of the European colonialism that challenges the Igbo culture. The benefits of it can also be seen. That Christianity or the white missionaries, they gave shelter to those who were outcast to the Igbo in the Igbo society. So the wrong approach taken by the Westerners is seen in the attitude towards the Igbo of total submission and gratitude for them. So it was the wrong approach on the part of the Westerner, because their arrival in the Umofia, it was unexpected, and it didn't help anyone. And upon their arrival, they thought that they because they were more civilized and educated, and they should be the ones to rule in Umofia, not the Igbo people. So by doing so, they immediately or unintentionally, you may say, belittled or degraded the status and the importance of the Igbo in their own land. Everyone's culture and language is dear to them. So it was a wrong approach on the part of Westerners. So this is great disrespect to Igbo and their ancestors. That is what angered and offended the Igbos the most. So it would have been pleasant if the missionaries held the Igbo people at the same standard, at the same level of respect they thought they were. So to conclude, we can say that it is important to acknowledge like both the benefits and the the challenges that resulted from the European colonialism on the Igbo society. So the Igbo greatly benefited from the introduction of school and education in their society that helped curb the rate of illiteracy in the village, and because of it today most Igbos are literate individuals and who have dilated their knowledge to the more enlightened. So the Europeans they also taught Igbo about their own culture, and although the Igbo found it difficult to transition from their own culture to that of some stranger culture, they learned something new from it. As Bhabha says, the hybridity is also productive. It creates third space, which in third space is productive. So nonetheless there are challenges as well the Igbo people face, and there are consequences as well, and those consequences are more than the benefits. So without culture Igbo society is as good as dead. So here it also shows the significance of the Conco's death. He committed suicide. So because he thought that we have lost our culture, we have lost our traditions, our judicial system, political, economical system, our religions, everything else. So Igbo society was basically without any identity, without any culture over there. So Akonko committed suicide, and if he didn't commit suicide, it was already the suicide of death of the Igbo society. So Akonko, the Igbo committed suicide by not being suspicious of the white missionaries' intentions in their land or questioning his presence. So that is basically the conclusion. I have also put references in the next two slides. So I hope you have understood the whole lecture, and with this I would like to go. Thank you and stay blessed.